lot going on tonight. The most important thing is what you were thinking before you got here, as you listened to the radio. Maybe it was NPR, maybe it was talk radio. You listened to what's going on in the world, and you said, well, this is the America that I live in 2017. I have some things that I've thought about the current situation, and some things that I am most interested in as an American citizen. In fact, if you were to ask me, I could probably come up with 10 things that every American should know so they can be civically and culturally literate and an engaged and involved citizen. That's why we're here. That's the sole modus of our time together this evening. I've just completed at least one phase, the most recent phase, of a 45-year career in journalism. Most of that in service in Utah, but I've had the opportunity, the profound opportunity, to work in every state of this nation as a reporter and to work in 15 countries overseas as a reporter. And there's some things that have stuck with me over those 5 decades of reporting about this nation. First and foremost, let me be trite. This is a remarkable nation. It truly is. We have a strong sense of individual liberty, individual rights. We have strong personal opinions about what we expect from our government and what we expect that government to represent. We have a remarkable collective ability to express political will. And time and again, I've been touched and have marveled at our collective empathy of pulling together in dark times on the neighborhood level and the national level. Those are great American characteristics that I find in ample supply in this nation. Other lessons have emerged as well. Our political climate is never dead center with the pendulum on a grandfather's clock that Norman Rockwell might paint, with the pendulum perfectly centered and in balance. Our political pendulum is constantly swinging. Right to left, left to right, in motion. And why we think it might be better if we could just get that pendulum to stay in one place where we really like it, it never will, because the nation never will stay in one place. That constant motion, the ebb and flow, the swing, the right, the left. It's the American experience. Our national slogan probably could be, I know my rights. Because that's been said to me more than any other phrase across 5 decades as a reporter. I know my rights. Okay, but in reality, understanding the complexities of the 21st century social contract is not something we're born understanding. It's not innately put in our DNA. We have to learn what that social contract truly represents. Instead, our national motto is E pluribus unum, from many, one. Originally, the message of these disparate colonies and states coming together as a collective to form one nation. But in the 21st century, our nation faces a significant challenge as well. With increased diversity, how do we find the unifying principles that hold us true to form a more perfect union together? How do we do this? How do we fashion this? In a nation that's perpetually in motion, a nation that stresses its individual rights and liberties, it's an increasingly diverse profile. How do we fashion a more perfect union? What can, what should, what must each of us understand as essential truths that serve as our common bond together? Too often we hear the answer to that question thrown around in partisan political settings by labels. We throw labels at each other, we stick labels on ourselves, and we think in the labeling that we've done enough of the political communication, and that's not the case. Is there a common core of understanding that can be forged in each of us that builds a spirit of informed experience that provides the mechanism for finding solutions to the challenges we face in our communities and in our nation. Common understanding will inform and grace our lives as a shared language, even when we disagree. And frankly, I'm betting we're going to continue to disagree. Can we create a list of essential lessons and what every American should know? Well, that's why we're here. The conversation brings us together, and tonight we're part of a series of conversations played out from Los Angeles to New York. And most appropriately, every single one of these conversations is playing out in the public library. And just where they should be. Because our public libraries, at their very best and at their most dependable, are marketplaces of ideas, not just for the young, but for every member of our society. So here we are. Great library, great setting, great people, great thoughts. You benefit tonight from three significant opportunities and inspirations. First, many of you have already thought in advance about that list of 10 great ideas that you want to share. We're also going to spend time talking in our small groups, listening to each other about those 10 lists, what is important, what are the values at stake, and sharing. And then we're going to gather as a larger group, the committee of the whole, and we're going to share lessons back and forth. Are we going to come up with 10 commandments that we will etch in stone? Absolutely not. That's not the point of this. The point is to start talking about it. The point is to share it. The point is to carry the dialogue alive with us outside of the library setting, back to our homes, back to our neighbors, back to our colleagues, back to wherever we choose to have that conversation.
We don't need to look very far to see the recent fragmentation and polarization of American culture and politics. We live in an age when growing diversity and increasing inequality are pushing out the prominent American identity of the past. That identity no longer fits our new America. For many of us, it never really did. Today, millions of Americans, for all kinds of reasons, are feeling left out, left behind, or both. This has perhaps never been more obvious than it has in the past couple of weeks. Last Friday, as all of you know, tens of thousands of people descended on Washington, D.C., where I'm from, to witness President Trump's historic inauguration. And in the days since then, every single day, millions of people from all ends of the political spectrum have hit the streets around the country in unprecedented mass protests for all kinds of reasons. Americans, both old and new, from the left and from the right, are now faced with what is both a challenge and an opportunity: to come together and redefine what it means to be an American today. But how are we supposed to do that? How can we cultivate a sense of common civic purpose? And how can we do that in a way that is truly participatory and that reflects and celebrates all of our diverse backgrounds and perspectives? Today's program, as Ken said, is really in the spirit of these questions. And these are the same questions that are at the heart of our entire What Every American Should Know initiative. This initiative was originally inspired by the 1987 book called Cultural Literacy, written by E.D. Hirsch. Most of this book was an argument for why any nation needs a common cultural vocabulary. At the end of this book, Hirsch included an appendix, a 63-page alphabetical list of 5,000 things that he thought every American ought to know. It just so happened that the book and its appendix landed in a moment that was very ripe with national anxiety, not too different than today. Hirsch had waded into the center of the culture wars. Hirsch's list, by design, was heavily focused on a white Anglo perspective of American history and culture. Some people did embrace Hirsch and his list for what he included, and others attacked them for what was not. And thus began a debate not only over the list itself, but over the entire conversation about the need for common knowledge at all. Since then, a generation has passed, and unfortunately in that time we have experienced enormous cultural fragmentation. As we've seen through this election cycle and its aftermath, we can feel this fragmentation in so many ways in our everyday lives. What this is telling us is that it's really time for us to revisit these ideas of civic and cultural literacy. The more fragmented we become in our society, the more necessary it is for us to have some sort of foundation of common knowledge, a shared set of cultural and historical references that we can all collect and understand. When we have access to this common knowledge, we can better understand one another. We can encounter each other in our shared communities and appreciate each other's part of that shared community. It really is a way of talking to each other across the lines that can too often divide us. When we're able to do that, so many doors can open for us. We can claim voice and power as Americans, and we're able to support each other in doing so. Eric Liu, who's my boss, who created the What Every American Should Know initiative, has said that being American should mean being part of a common culture that is even greater than the sum of our many diverse parts. So then being civically and culturally literate means understanding and appreciating all of those many parts, even when they're not our own. So now we aim to do two things. The first is to update this common knowledge, what we are calling the list of what every American should know, to reflect our true society today. The list ought to contain things that are not just important for elites, but for every American. The second is to make this entire endeavor as intentionally inclusive as possible. The list is not a set of knowledge that is prescribed by one person to many people. It's a list that really belongs to all of us. So, we've invited people from around the country to submit 10 things: names, dates, terms, phrases, concepts that every American ought to know in order to navigate American life. For example, some terms that I have recently added to my list are America First and Women's March on Washington. As thousands of ideas come in from across the country and from across the political spectrum, a collective national list of what every American should know is emerging. And that's exactly why we're here tonight, to ask, what do you think that every American ought to know? Leading up to this event, you may have been asked to start thinking, what are 10 things that you would include on your list? Tonight, you'll have many more opportunities to add to that list and to craft it. And after this event, please do submit your list at whateveryamericans.org and by turning in the forms at your table. Again, thank you so much for being here. This conversation really could not happen without you.
Please visit the Aspen Institute's website, www.whateveryamericans.org. It's a long one, but it's listed on everything around you. Whateveryamericans.org, and add your list to the national database that's being accumulated. Add your top 10. Please do that. Share your list on Twitter or share one of your ideas on social media. Better yet, talk to someone tomorrow, be it a family member, a neighbor who you're going to get to know, or a colleague at work, and say, hey, I participated in something last night, and they asked me, what are the 10 things every American should know? And you know, I said the Bill of Rights. What would you say? Continue the conversation. Please do it, because this is part of an ongoing, evolving national dialogue. Thank you to the Aspen Institute Citizenship and American Identity Project and the Salt Lake County Library System for creating this opportunity this evening. Now, as part of my career, I had an opportunity to live and study overseas for a period of 1 year. And in that setting, in an academic setting, I was surrounded by graduate students from throughout the world, the Third World, throughout Europe, the Soviet Union, China, Asia. We were all in this one large global setting, and we were discussing literally what it means to be self-governing. Throughout the experience, I learned that every corner of the world, in one way or another, looks to the United States. Now, some look at us with misgivings. Others look at us for inspiration. I was constantly asked in that setting to explain my nation's course of action because at that time, in the 1980s, American politics and foreign policy were very active. And there were people in the world that didn't understand exactly what Americans meant. I finally realized the best response I could offer to anything was, rather than talk about a daily policy development, was to speak from my heart about what I felt was the strongest attribute of the American experience. And that was our shared, unshakable faith in tomorrow. And somehow, today's struggle would leave us wiser. Today's difficult lesson would give us insight to a new course. Today's exclusion would be tomorrow's inclusion. Tomorrow has always been the greatest strength of this nation. We started out by talking tangentially about the Constitution. As we leave here tonight, we need to remember that the pursuit of a more perfect union is extremely difficult, constantly inspiring, and endless. And you are part of the process of keeping that evolution alive and living. And for your time tonight and your input,